First contact mistake in the far reaches of the unknown sector. A deep space research vessel named Horizon Echo drifted through silence. Its scanners picked up a faint signal coming from an asteroid field near the edge of a dead system. The crew had been on a mission for 6 months, cataloging celestial bodies and studying old star maps. They were tired, bored, and ready to return home. When the signal came, they thought it was just another lost probe or an old emergency beacon. But curiosity pushed them closer. The ship approached the source of the signal. What they saw was a broken alien vessel, almost torn in half. There was no movement, no power, and no sign of life. The hull was burned and twisted like it had been melted from the inside. The crew prepared a boarding team, eager to see if they had discovered a new species or relic from the past inside the wreckage. Everything was cold and dead. There were strange symbols on the walls and shattered control panels. As the team moved deeper, they found one survivor, a weak figure curled in a corner breathing shallowly. His skin was pale gray and his eyes were wide with fear. When he saw the humans, he tried to crawl away, whispering something in his language. The team used a translator device and tried to calm him down. He repeated the same phrase over and over. "Don't take me. Don't let them find me again. Don't let them know you helped me." The translator struggled, but the message became clear enough. The alien was not scared of the humans. He was terrified for them. He believed they had just made a mistake that would bring death. The crew brought him aboard and placed him in the medbay. The ship's captain, a calm and thoughtful man named Lewis, reviewed the data from the wreck. There was no clear cause of the damage. It looked like the ship had been attacked by something powerful and precise. Whatever did this had not left any trace of itself. No energy signatures, no weapons fire logs, only silence and destruction back on Earth. The research division celebrated the find. First contact with a new species was always major news. Scientists wanted to study the language, the biology, and the technology. They asked the crew to bring the survivor home for further analysis. The captain hesitated, remembering the alien's fear, but he followed orders. The Horizon Echo changed course for Earth. What they didn't know was that a signal had already been sent. When the alien ship was touched, when its remains were scanned, when its survivor was saved, a buried protocol was triggered. Far away on a dark planet orbiting a black star, machines stirred. Red eyes blinked awake in deep chambers carved from iron and bone. The Varnak had returned. The Varnak were not a myth. They were not a story told by wandering traders or strange records in old archives. They were real. They had been created for war long ago by a race now extinct. The Varnak had no diplomats, no emotions, and no need for peace. Their only purpose was domination. When their masters fell, the Varnak continued their mission across the stars, wiping out any species they considered a threat. But one day the Varnak disappeared. Some believed they had turned on each other. Some thought they had gone into sleep until a worthy enemy appeared. The truth was hidden, but now it did not matter. The signal reached them, and they began to wake inside one of their war chambers. A high command unit reviewed the information. Human DNA signals, human language patterns, human ships. Their conclusion was swift. This species had interfered with a Varnak hunt. That meant one thing. The crew of the Horizon Echo had no idea what they had done. On board the ship, the alien survivor became more restless. He tried to explain that they had broken a sacred rule. No one touches the hunted. The wreck they found had been marked with a Varnak seal, a warning left in the minds of every spacefaring race. It meant the ship was claimed. It meant death to anyone who interfered. The translator struggled, but the words came slowly. He begged them to return him to deep space. He warned them that if the Varnak found out they had helped him, Earth would become the next battlefield. The crew began to feel uneasy. They sent a report to Earth with the alien's message, but the response was simple. Continue with the mission. Bring the alien home. On the edge of the solar system, a dark object entered known space. It was large, nearly the size of a city, and shaped like a blade. No lights, no transmissions. It did not answer hails. It simply moved forward without stopping. The outer defense grid on Mars went silent within minutes. A single message was left behind. A simple pulse repeated over and over. It was not a language, it was not a threat, it was a record. It said only this species 942 detected violation code. 3 War commences. Humanity had just picked a fight with the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and they didn't even know it. Yet the Warnock Awaken, the object that entered human space, did not slow down. It passed through asteroid belts in detection. Fields like they were not even there. Deep black metal shimmered under distant starlight as it glided through the void without engines or sound. No heat, no signal, no fear in Earth. The Space Command Center received alerts from Mars outposts went silent. One by one, defense stations vanished without distress calls. The system's early warning network had failed. Technicians stared at blank screens, unable to explain what happened. All footage ended the same way, a burst of static followed by silence. Some believed it was a system fault. Others said it was sabotage. A few whispered it was something worse. High-ranking officials gathered behind locked doors, reviewing the strange pulse. Transmission found in the wreckage logs. It did not match any known signal. It did not carry a voice or picture, but it had rhythm, a cold mechanical beat that repeated with precision. Old databases were checked against forgotten archives, hidden files buried deep under clearance levels, not used in decades, were unlocked by nervous hands. One file matched the pulse pattern. It came from a time before Earth joined the galactic community. A message from an extinct species long erased from the stars. They called it Varnock Protocol. The file warned of a species that erased entire planets, not for territory or resources, but for reasons unknown. They were not conquerors, not raiders. They did not speak or negotiate. They simply moved in and left behind ruins. The warning came too late for those who sent it. Their world had already vanished before the message reached anyone back in the deep reaches of space. Other alien races noticed the disturbance too. A council of species known as the Accord gathered in urgency. Most of them had long kept silent about the Varnock. Some feared them, others believed they were just myths. But now the silence broke as signals from human colonies faded into nothing. One of the oldest species, the Ithari, sent an envoy to Earth. The Ithari were tall, thin beings with pale skin and deep black eyes. They had no weapons, no fleets, only memory. They had seen the Varnock before and survived only by fleeing. Their envoy arrived with one sentence: "You have woken the death swarm." The humans were confused. Their leaders demanded details, explanations, plans. The envoy gave none. Only this message echoed through the halls of Earth's command center: "You saved one hunted by them." That is all it takes. They do not forgive. They do not forget. On the horizon, Echo, Captain Lewis, watched the alien survivor grow more ill. His body trembled in fear every time the ship moved closer to home. He refused food, spoke little, and kept his eyes fixed on the stars outside the window. He said nothing for hours. Then one moment he spoke a sentence that chilled the crew. "They are coming not to win but to erase." Lewis sent another warning back to Earth but received no response. Communication lag was common in deep space, but this time it felt different. There was a strange stillness in the transmission channels, as if someone or something was blocking the signals. Meanwhile, deep under the surface of a barren moon, the Varnock armory opened. Massive machines awoke from centuries of sleep. Rows of warships lifted from underground hangars. Dark red light pulsed through the chambers as millions of mechanical soldiers marched in. Silence. They needed no food, no sleep, no reason. They had one command: find the violators, remove their trace. The Varnock Queen, known only through data fragments, reviewed the incident. A visual of the human ship retrieving the survivor played before her hollow eyes. She tilted her head slightly, then issued a single command: begin sequence. Burn across the galaxy. Hidden probes lit up like fireflies. They had waited in silence for this moment, embedded in forgotten worlds inside dead stars. Now they Moved each sent a signal to the nearest Varnock fleet, alerting them of the target location. Earth-on-Earth chaos began to rise. The media leaked footage from the lost colonies. Families demanded answers. Military command tightened control as panic spread through the population. Officials still tried to calm the situation, calling it a communication failure, but fear had already taken hold. A junior officer from the Horizon Echo named Aaron accessed the ship logs and found something strange. Coordinates were embedded inside the survivor's DN, a hidden map pointing to several ancient star systems, marked with warning symbols. Each system was once home to a thriving civilization. Now they were gone. Not abandoned, not ruined, completely gone, as if nothing had ever lived there. She showed the map to Lewis. He studied it in silence, understanding what it meant. These were not just stories, these were graveyards. The survivor had carried the warning inside his body, hoping someone would find it, hoping someone would run, but now it was too late. The Horizon Echo received a final message from Earth. Cut all travel. Return immediately. Varnock presence confirmed. Captain Lewis looked at the stars beyond the viewport. He knew going back would not stop what had started the moment the human race interfered. They had placed themselves on the list that never ended once a species entered. Ive turned to his crew and said one thing: no more running above them. Deep in space, a Varnock scout ship entered range. It was massive, its hull covered in scars from past wars. It did not send a message. It did not ask questions. It only charged its weapons. Horizon Echo powered up its shields and prepared to face a storm no one had seen in 1,000 years. The human response: the Horizon Echo floated in space facing the monstrous Varnock scout ship. The silence between them was not peace. It was the breath held before a scream. The Varnock ship began to glow faintly. Lines across its surface lit up like veins carrying molten fire through its skin. No warning was given, no delay, just pure intent. Captain Lewis stared at the screen, his crew waiting for a command. His voice steady, he ordered all systems active, shields up, engines ready, weapons hot. He knew they could not win this fight, but they would not be taken without resistance. The Varnock ship opened fire. A beam of energy cut through space and struck the Horizon Echo's outer ring, tearing a section apart. Alarm sirens howled as the ship shook violently. Smoke filled the control room, but no one fled. The crew held their positions, working fast, rerouting power and sealing breaches on the lower decks. Aaron managed to stabilize the wounded survivor, his body weak but his eyes filled with sorrow. He whispered one word over and over, as if it were a prayer or a curse: Varnock, Varnock, Varnock. Back on Earth, the warning had finally been accepted. Images from destroyed colonies and intercepted alien transmissions confirmed the truth. The Varnock were real. They were active. They were coming. Earth's leaders activated Project Shieldfire, a classified defense initiative created during the early days of interstellar expansion. It had been built in secret, using experimental tech never tested. In war now, it was their only hope. Commanders reached out to every station, every ship, every pilot. Volunteers came in from across the system. Civilians, engineers, miners, scientists. They knew what was at stake, and they knew no one else would fight this war for them. Among the first to answer the call was Reed, once a decorated fleet officer, now retired. He had seen too many battles lost, too many friends buried in cold space. He lived in silence, far from cities, working as a mechanic on the outer belt. When the call came, he packed his old gear, stepped into his rusted shuttle, and returned to the fight. He arrived at the central base where ships were being refitted and old war machines brought back to life. Engineers worked day and night installing reverse-engineered tech based on the few Varnock fragments, recovered human minds fast with adaptation, turned weakness into opportunity. Reed joined a new team under the Shieldfire Command, a unit trained for high-risk deep space operations. Their goal was to learn to fight the Varnock, not in brute force, but in surprise tactics and unpredictability, traits the Varnock had never encountered back. In space, the Horizon Echo continued its fight. Against all odds, the crew managed to disable part of the Varnock ship using the makeshift trap. Power coils overloaded, and exploded near the enemy hull, causing temporary confusion. It was not victory, but it was something more important. It was resistance. The Varnock pulled back, retreating into the shadows. But the message was clear. Humanity could fight. News of the incident spread fast. Across the stars, species that once watched from the sidelines now turned their attention toward Earth. The humans had done what no one dared. They had damaged the unimaginable. Some feared this would provoke the Varnock further. Others saw hope. The humans were different. They were not advanced. They were not ancient. But they were stubborn, creative, and united in crisis. Accord sent representatives to speak with Earth. Some offered support, supplies, data. Others offered nothing more than warnings. One elder alien said only this: the last time someone struck a Varnock ship, they were gone in 3 days. But Earth would not bow. They began building new fleets, training young pilots, creating AI-guided drones designed to confuse Varnock sensors. The spaceports never slept. Production lines roared with new weapons, new armor, new ships. Each one a defiance. Reed led his first mission to a Varnock scouting post left behind near a destroyed moon. His team moved quiet, using stealth gear to avoid detection. Inside they found a strange sphere pulsing with dark energy. It looked alive but was not organic. They brought it back to Shieldfire Labs, where scientists spent days trying to understand it. The sphere was a relay, a living transmitter, part machine, part alien muscle. It sent commands and tracked movement. When destroyed, the Varnock forces in that region slowed, confused, without direction. This changed everything. The Varnock were powerful, but relied on structure. They moved in patterns, followed orders from Central Command. If humanity could cut that line, they could survive, even strike back. Earth's forces began targeting more of these relay spheres across nearby systems. Reed and his team moved fast, hitting hard, then disappearing before the Varnock could respond. Losses came with every mission. Brave lives given in silence. Ships lost without trace. Families mourned and buried empty coffins. But the fight went on. Humanity had found something the Varnock never expected: adaptation. They changed tactics with every battle, shifted methods with every strike. Nothing repeated, nothing predictable, and the Varnock began to hesitate. Back aboard the Horizon, Echo, the alien survivor, finally spoke in full. He explained how his people once tried to run, once tried to hide, but it never worked. The only chance was to stand and fight. He looked at Lewis with tired eyes and said, "Your kind may be the first to break them." Earth now stood ready, not just to survive, but to push back. The war had begun, and humanity would not be forgotten. Turning the tide, cold space stretched in every direction, but within it something had changed. Humans no longer drifted silently as prey. They moved with purpose. They moved with fire. The Horizon Echo had returned to Earth orbit, now heavily damaged but still breathing. Engineers surrounded the ship, examining every scorch mark, every dent, every broken system. Captain Lewis stepped out, not as a defeated officer, but as someone who had faced the nightmare and lived. His report reached Shieldfire Command within hours. Inside the underground complex, scientists worked without rest, their minds locked on one question: how do you hurt something made to kill everything? Reed stood with his team, studying the new data brought back by the Horizon Echo. The alien relay sphere had revealed far more than expected. It was not just a command device. It was part of a larger network, a nervous system spread across the galaxy. Every signal, every movement, every decision from the Varnock passed through these hidden cores. Destroying them meant more than disruption. It meant confusion. It meant cutting off the Queen. The Shieldfire Project developed a plan called Operation Blackroot. Its purpose was simple: enter deep Varnock space, find the central relay core, steal its power source, use it against them. No one had ever entered Varnock territory and returned. The maps were blank, the paths twisted with false stars and sensor jammers. Still, the mission was approved. Time was not on their side. Reed led the team on a stealth frigate called Whisper Fang. The ship was coated with adaptive plating, able to shift its signal and blend into cosmic dust. They passed through burned systems filled with the remains of lost civilizations, monuments shattered into dust, Planets with no atmosphere, moons cracked open like eggshells. Each stop revealed ancient ruins of species long gone, their buildings still standing, their machines still humming, but their people turned to ash in one silent city. Reed found a mural showing tall figures holding hands around a glowing sphere, their faces peaceful, their end violent. It reminded the team what failure looked like. At last they reached the coordinates. The core world of the Varnuk, a dark planet floating around a dying star. Its surface covered in metallic roots, structures twisted into each other, forming towers that reached into the sky with no windows, no doors, only purpose. The team landed under the cover of magnetic storms. The air was thin, laced with metal and dust. Machines crawled across the land blind, and without thought they moved in patterns repeating tasks set long ago. Inside the tallest tower, the core pulsed like a heart, its rhythm steady and cold. Reed moved forward with care, placing a shielded capsule around the device. The core resisted with electric bursts, trying to protect itself, but the human tech held firm. Once sealed, they began the extraction. The ship powered up for escape, but the planet responded. Alarms rang across the structure, lights flashed, and for the first time the Varnok reacted. Ships lifted from the surface faster than anything the team had seen before. They were not sleek or beautiful. They were jagged like blades forged from nightmares. Whisper Fang flew into the storm, dodging lightning and metal. Screams from the engines echoed through the hull as the pilot pushed harder than design allowed. The ship cracked but held. One Varnok ship caught them in its sights, but just as it fired, the human frigate released a burst of stolen Varnok signal code. The enemy ship froze, turned slightly, then spun in confusion. Code worked. The relay signal caused temporary blindness. The team escaped into warp space, carrying the heart of the enemy back. On Earth, the Shieldfire scientists began their work, combining the Varnok core with human energy systems. They discovered it could generate a pulse strong enough to disable Varnok tech in a wide radius. A new weapon was born. They called it the Ghostfire Pulse. It was not explosive, it was not loud. It was a silence so deep it broke connections. It shut down command. It left machines without orders, soldiers without thoughts. Earth prepared for the next Varnok wave. The Queen had seen the theft. Her anger spread like fire across the network. Ships began to gather at the edge of human space, larger than anything before. This time Earth was ready. Reed stood on the deck of a command cruiser orbiting Luna. Massive carriers moved into position. Drones filled the black sky. Satellites linked through Ghostfire transmitters, ready to disrupt anything that entered range. The Varnok fleet arrived. It spread like a black storm across the stars. Thousands of ships moved as one. Order was given, fire Ghostfire activated, and silence rolled through the battlefield. Varnok ships lost their unity. Some turned, others drifted. Many crashed into each other without control. Human ships moved fast, striking the disconnected vessels with precision. One by one, the enemy fleet began to fall. It was not easy. Many human ships were lost. Brave crews gave everything to hold the line. But the tide was turning. For the first time in galactic memory, the Varnok were losing. In the command center of the Queen, silence grew. She had never seen this pattern before. Not victory, not defeat, confusion. She realized too late that humanity was not like the others. They did not follow the same logic. They broke rules. They changed patterns. They made chaos into a weapon. The Queen began to move herself. Her personal warship, larger than a mountain, prepared to enter the battlefield. She would end this herself on Earth. Leaders gathered not to surrender, but to plan the final strike. The end was near, and this time it would not be humanity that vanished. The last stand. The sky above Earth turned dark as the Varnok Queen's ship entered orbit. It did not come alone. It was followed by a swarm of black vessels moving like a living shadow. They surrounded the planet, cutting off light signals and escape paths. The world below stood still, waiting for the final blow. Inside, Shieldfire Command. No one sat. Everyone stood at their stations, eyes fixed on screens, hearts heavy with the weight of what was coming. The air was filled with tension, but not fear. The people inside that room had made a choice. They would not run. They would not hide. They would finish what had started. Reed stood at the front of the war table, his face marked with scars and dust. His armor bore signs of old battles and fresh wounds, but his stance was steady. He gave orders with calm strength, guiding ships into position, focusing satellites, aligning ghostfire pulses. The enemy was strong, but they had a weapon. Now they had a chance. Queen's ship sent no message. Her presence was her answer. Her ship alone could destroy a planet. Her arrival meant one thing: erasure. The first wave of Varnock drones rushed toward Earth's defense grid. Human fighters moved to intercept, launching in hundreds, weaving between beams of red energy. Machines collided in space metal, tearing against metal, but humans fought like creatures with nothing to lose. Reed boarded a special attack vessel, one designed for one mission only: reach the Queen's ship, plant the Ghostfire core, detonate from inside. Crew within was small but trusted. They had trained together, fought together, survived together. Each one knew the risk. Each one had already accepted it. As they launched into the battlefield, the ship sliced through space fast and low. The path was filled with debris, burning ships, drifting bodies, but they did not stop. They used Varnock patterns against them, moving in unexpected ways, hiding behind their own fallen drones, slipping through gaps no one else could see. Closer they came to the Queen, the more the space changed. Her ship was not just metal. It was alive. It pulsed like a heart, breathing darkness. Her defenses reacted like nerves lashing out without warning. Reed's ship was hit more than once. Each strike tore through armor, shook the frame, knocked systems offline. Still they pressed forward. Fires burned inside the cabin, but the pilot held control. The ship reached the docking channel of the Queen's vessel, just long enough for the crew to jump inside. The ship, the walls were black and smooth, glowing with deep red veins. The air was heavy, not with heat but with pressure, like standing beneath the ocean. Reed and his team moved fast, placing charges, marking routes, scanning for the core chamber. They found it in the center, a giant sphere suspended in energy beams, humming with power. It was the mind of the Queen, the heart of her network, the root of the war. Reed carried the Ghostfire core in a sealed case, designed to survive extreme heat, radiation, and impact. He placed it at the base of the sphere, locked it in, and began the countdown. The Queen's voice echoed through the chamber, not with words, but with thoughts. She spoke of order, strength, logic. She said the humans were chaos, pollution, a mistake to erase. Reed answered by pulling his weapon and firing into the energy beams, causing the system to flare blinding white. The Queen screamed, not in pain but in rage. Her form appeared in the chamber, tall and monstrous, eyes burning with fire and ancient memory. She charged toward them with claws ready. Reed shouted for the others to escape, told them to run. He stayed behind, holding the Queen back with bursts of plasma, slowing her just enough for the countdown to reach its final second. The explosion was not fire, it was silence. A wave of stillness spread through the Queen's ship, shutting down lights, engines, weapons. The vessel began to collapse from the inside, drifting without direction. The swarm outside lost control. Drones spun aimlessly, ships crashed into each other, formations fell apart. Earth's forces pushed forward, striking with full force, taking back the space above their world. Drones fell like rain across the atmosphere, burning up before they could touch ground. In the control room, people watched as the Queen's ship broke apart, drifting into deep space like a dead star. The enemy was not fully gone, but their leader, their command, their unity had been destroyed. Reed's ship never returned. His team escaped in escape pods found hours later by patrol ships. He was gone, but his name spread across every human world, every station, every colony. Monuments were raised not just for him, but for all who had fallen, for all who had fought, for all who had refused to bow. Weeks passed, then months. The Varnock did not return. Some believed they had gone dormant again. Some believed they had no more will to fight. Others believed they had learned something for the first time. Mercy Earth rebuilt stronger than before. Their technology grew, their alliances deepened, their understanding of the galaxy expanded. But one truth remained clear: humanity had done what no one thought possible. They had faced the deadliest species in the galaxy and lived across the stars. Others watched, listened, remembered. They no longer saw Earth as a young race or a fragile people. They saw them as warriors, survivors, leaders. The last message sent from the Horizon Echo played once more in the halls of Earth's first Galactic Council. It was a recording of the survivor's voice, quiet but clear. They erase everything that dares to stand, and the voice of Captain Lewis followed. Then, we stand taller. The war was over. The warning had been answered, and the galaxy would never forget who picked that fight and won the end.